Well, this is really exciting. It's Xbox's first handheld. Well, sort of. If we're being honest, this is just the ROG Ally 2, but Xbox have slapped their logo and name on it, they've made the Windows handheld experience slightly less awful, and made what is essentially the Xbox PC app as the new default home screen. It's almost like what Microsoft and Windows should have been doing from the beginning to help these devices get off the ground. But hey, who cares about the branding? The bottom line is, after using this for a few weeks now, I love it. And I may even like it more than this guy. Holy moly, look at the size difference. This is the Lenovo Legion Go 2. They both use the same Z2 Extreme chip, but look at the size difference. We're talking 7 inches versus 8.8. LCD, basically the same screen as the original Ally, versus OLED. This is, in many ways, a lot nicer, and also in some ways a lot better as well. I mean, we've got detachable controllers, you've got kickstands, it's bigger, the screen's nicer, you've got a lot more flexibility, but it's also more expensive, it's a lot heavier and just more cumbersome to use as a handheld. I mean, it's a progression, right? At the bottom end, you've got your... well, hang on. Yep, you've got your Switch 2, most affordable, easiest to pick up and play. Step up from that, you've got your Steam Deck, a tiny bit more expensive, particularly if you go for the OLED version, which I definitely would, much better. And of course, if you want to play, PC games, your Steam library. But then beyond that, realistically now, I'd probably recommend the ROG Xbox Ally, not the X version, the cheaper one, but in place of that we'll put the old Ally X, and then the X version, which I'm reviewing in this video, and then above that, the Legion Go. It's the biggest, the baddest, the most expensive. There's a lot of options out there, and this isn't even including the MSI Claw and the Lenovo Legion Go S, and make sure you have hit the subscribe button because I'll be doing a full handheld buying guide. But this video is all about the new Xbox Ally, that's what I'm just going to call it. This is the X version, and really this is what we've been waiting for, not just because of the spec bump, not just because of the more comfortable grips and a whole bunch of other refinements, but crucially, they've just made Windows less.
I know you need more deep background, but we're up against it.
But before we dive into how fast it is, the battery life, and talk about all this lovely grip and the new design and all that, let me just show you what it's actually like to use. This is the ROG Xbox Ally X. This is the previous ROG Ally X. So if I boot them both up, firstly, this one actually loads up a little bit faster. So on the old Ally X, you go straight into the Windows desktop. You've got the taskbar at the bottom there, and it's also launching into the ROG Armoury Crate, but within, desktop Windows. However, on the Xbox Ally, as I'm going to call it, we go straight into this full screen Xbox mode. Really fast, lovely to use. You've got all your recent games. You can go down to Game Pass, which of course is getting more expensive, not ideal for the launch of this. You can also obviously stream Xbox games, but if I press this new Xbox button, it brings up this little compact menu where I've got my recent games and also all my game stores. So if I tap on Steam, this is the first time I'm opening it since a reboot, so it will take about 30 seconds to actually log me back in. And we're in, and so I can then jump back to the Xbox, I can swipe back over to Steam, but down here, look at that, Windows Desktop. It's a specific mode I have to launch, and this takes me to the desktop with the lovely ROG and Xbox logos there. But have a look at this. If I go back to the old Ally and open the Xbox app, it obviously runs well, everything's the same, lovely, but on the new one, at the top right here, if that little minimize goes away, you can see it says Xbox Full Screen. This isn't on any other Windows handheld, and it actually prompts me to restart the device for the best performance. Which is a little bit of a faff, especially when it doesn't recognize your fingerprint anymore for some reason, and I have to use the PIN again. Just a second. But then we're straight back into this full screen Xbox experience. And the idea is we can avoid a lot of the background processes, and as we've seen from the likes of the Legion Go S in the Steam version versus the Windows version, Windows is still a bit of a system hog, it's not great for games. But you can still open the Armoury Crate and you can change what it defaultly launches into, whether you want the Xbox or the Armoury Crate, and it just means I don't have to deal with the clunky desktop nearly as much. And while the initial setup is still a bit of a slog, although I've been told that's actually been improved for the launch version compared to my review unit, once you're up and running, this is the nicest experience I've had on a Windows handheld. Let's talk about the hardware of this thing, and front and center we have this 7-inch screen, which is essentially the same as the Ally X and the original Ally. I don't think they've changed it at all, as far as I can tell, which is a bit disappointing. It feels like the only thing that's not been upgraded. It's fine, it's still a good screen. 7-inch, 1080p, VRR, I think about 500 nits, touchscreen of course, although you may prefer the rubbish viewing angles because, this is a single person's gaming device. And actually, it does make me feel a little bit less self-conscious when I'm using this on the train or on the plane, because I know that the person next to me can't see it as easily. Unlike the Legion Go's OLED, which is just like everyone in the room can see that thing. We also have the same battery as the Ally X, 80 watt hours, which is, to be fair, double what we got on the original Ally. This was shockingly bad, and we'll go into some battery numbers in a second. So same screen, same battery, but pretty much everything else has been tweaked, refined, upgraded. This is a proper Ally 2. I mean, just look at this thing. The new controller grips make it feel like you're holding an elongated Xbox controller. It does make the whole thing a good deal chunkier than the older Allies. It's so much more comfortable to hold like this, like, you know, you're supposed to be using a gaming handheld, than the Legion Go, for example. Although I will give Lenovo credit for giving us a kickstand. We do not have anything like that on here, although you can just about have it like that. It does still feel a little bit cheap, not quite like a $1,000 device or £800. You know what? One of those would help, from dbrand, the kill switch case. If only I had it. Oh wait, here it is. The good folks over at dbrand, who are very kindly sponsoring this video, have sent over their kill switch, which works with both the new ROG Xbox Ally and the X, of course, which I have here. Have a look at this bad boy. That's fine. And there we go. So you can see we've got ventilation in the back there. This is where the little buttons go. Kind of weird, stop doing that, Tom. More at the top there, gaps for the ports, triggers. Nice. Also, that is very grippy. And there we go, finally, kickstand. So let's pop this in. Yeah, that feels really well made and definitely adds a little bit of grip factor. Looks good. Kickstand's the most important thing, but still leaves all the ventilation and access for all the buttons. I can still press the power button, use my fingerprint reader. We've also got a couple of caps for the joysticks. So if you prefer the feel of this or just want to protect your thumb pads, then you can also pop these little covers on. They also sent a couple of screen protectors, because obviously this bad boy we have to keep safe. Little tempered glass protector for the Ally X and the claw as well. So screen protector from dbrand, kill switch case from dbrand, and last but not least, what is this? It's a book. It's like the history of dbrand. Wait, can I be in here at some point? Maybe if I work really hard. So definitely check out the new dbrand kill switch. I'll leave a link to this as well as the console in the description below. And yeah, thanks again dbrand for sponsoring the video. Back to the review. We're also getting much better speakers. This thing sounds incredible. Although if you are using this out and about, you'll probably want to, use a pair of Bluetooth headphones or even plug into the headphone jack. There's one of those. And speaking of the ports, we've got a couple of USB 4s at the top here. The left one is meant for charging, with the other for monitors and accessories. We've also got a micro SD card slot to expand the storage, although you can also upgrade the internal M2 storage as well. Asus also sent me the, this guy, a dock. It's the Bulwark. It's a dock, basically, where you pop switch there, ROG Xbox Ally X, horrible name, onto it like so. Then you take the USB-C cable that comes with it, plug that in there, around the back, connect that to your wall via the charger that comes with the Xbox Ally, giving you a little fancy RGB at the front there, but more importantly, a whole bunch of extra I/O at the back, including HDMI, 3 USB Type A's, and a Type C. But if you want to use this as more of a sort of desktop gaming setup, then you can obviously connect that to your monitor. Just bear in mind that because of the hardware in this thing, you're still best off playing at 1080p. I'm probably not going to max out my 4K 240Hz monitor. It's the small things as well. Like Asus tell me they've made this from 3 pieces of plastic, which, as I say, still feels a little bit cheap and plasticky, but there's not a hint of flex or creaking. The vibration motors have been upgraded, adding more nuance and depth to the rumble. And like the triggers, the recoil of them sounds better than before. Like, listen to this. This is the new one. All very nice, but the headline really is what they've done on the inside. And they've upgraded the chip from the Z1 Extreme to the Z2 Extreme, paired with 24 gigabytes of very fast memory and a terabyte of PCIe 4 storage. Okay, here we have Battlefield 6. This is on the charger, as you can see. I'm running at 1080p, high settings with FSR, and you can see up here we're getting about 70, 8-ish frames per second. This is the campaign mode. When everything's obviously blowing up in multiplayer, it'll be a bit less than that. I found medium settings about right to get a smooth FPS from this. It does fluctuate, but we're looking at high 70s, sort of with the best turbo settings, 35 watts. However, if we drop that to 17 watts, you can see how that frame rate dips right down to the sort of low 50s. We've lost about 20 FPS there, going from 35 to 17 watts. Still pretty capable though, but in silent mode, 13 watts, we go from the low 50s down to about 40 frames per second. Let's punch that back up to full 35 watt turbo, almost hitting 80 there. Now, the next question is, how much performance do we lose when we take it off the power? So, as you can see, we are in 35 watt turbo mode plugged in, but when I unplug it, it drops down to 25 watts, and we lose about 10% of the performance. You can go to manual mode and actually put everything back to 35 watts, the same performance as you'd get when plugged in. But I would imagine this is how you're gonna play it most of the time. 25 watt turbo mode on battery with 1080p. Make sure you turn AMD RSR on as well. I found that can boost performance by sort of 10 to 20%. So the next question, of course, is how much performance are you gaining by having just that, dedicated Xbox full screen environment and not fully loading the desktop? Well, I ran Cyberpunk benchmark, turbo mode, plugged in, same settings, and I got 69 FPS when I was in the Xbox full screen mode, and then 67 when opening Cyberpunk via the desktop and presumably loading in all those background processes. What's that, maybe like 2 or 3%? Not enough to really account for the difference I'm seeing in performance between the Lenovo and this, but certainly it still seems to make a bit of a difference, but maybe not quite as much as I thought. Now, in theory, the Z2 Extreme chip in the Xbox Ally is about 20% faster than the Z1 Extreme, and actually that's roughly what I saw in my 3D Mark tests. In Time Spy, the Xbox Ally X is about 16 and 20% faster than the older Allies, but that jumps up to 38 and 40% in the more demanding Solar Bay tests, very tasty, and even beats the Legion Go 2. But that's just a synthetic benchmark. What about real-world use? Well, it's a little bit more complicated. With the three Allies, the Legion Go and the Steam Deck OLED on test, also remember the Steam Deck is 800p rather than 1080p resolution, which is actually 50% fewer pixels it needs to push. Broadly speaking, 20% uptick, roughly, going from the previous Ally X to the new one. But that depends on the game, the performance mode, the fan settings. Do you have AMD RSR enabled? You probably should. Does the game support FSR? Is it having a good day or not? But roughly you can say it's like going from 50 FPS in a AAA game to 60. It is a noticeable improvement, and there's a couple of different ways of spinning that. It also means you can play it unplugged and get the same performance as the higher turbo mode plugged in on the previous one. It also means you can get the same performance as before, but running at a lower wattage, so you get longer battery life. However you want to spin it, it is a nice upgrade, particularly for playing demanding AAA games, but it's not a night and day difference. If you already have an Ally X or similar, it would be hard to recommend jumping up to this, especially at this price. But if you're still rocking an original Ally, that's a different story, and mostly because of the battery life. The original Ally is terrible. That's the only word for it. I got 56 minutes out of this in Cyberpunk, playing at high settings in turbo mode, barely an hour. However, as expected, the Ally X, which doubled the battery from 40 to 80 watt hours, almost doubled my runtime to an hour and 49. But impressively, even though this shares the same size 80 watt hour battery as the Ally X, I got an extra 20 minutes out of this. It went to about 2 hours and 9. However, it didn't win. This guy did, the Lenovo. Despite having a bigger OLED screen and a smaller battery, 72 watt hours. And of course, it doesn't have that streamlined Windows experience like we kind of have on the Xbox ROG Ally. So more testing needs to be done, and I will be doing that for my full handheld buying guide. But certainly the ROG Xbox Ally lasts a good deal longer than even the previous Ally X, significantly longer than the original Ally. That's the main reason to upgrade, really. So demanding AAA games with turbo mode and high settings, you're getting a little bit over 2 hours. But of course, if you drop that to 13 watts and play simpler games, you're looking at closer to 4.5 to 5 hours. What's missing? Well, I would have liked a kickstand and that sort of softer plastic that you get on the Lenovo Legion. Also, no OLED screen, obviously, either, unfortunately. A little touchpad would have been nice. A lot of people swear by it, particularly for RTS games. The Steam Deck has one, the Lenovo has one. But for most of us, I think the biggest issue is going to be the price. The ROG Xbox Ally X This guy will cost you $999 in the US, $799 in the UK, which is interesting actually because that is the same UK launch price as the previous Ally X, and actually only 100 more than the original came out for. So in the UK, we're getting less of a bad deal, but in the US, they've actually hiked it by $200. Probably something to do with tariffs, but that's a conversation for a different YouTube channel. I mean, you can literally buy a PS5 and a PS Portal for the same price as one of these. This is more than a birthday and Christmas combined kind of gift. It's a lot of money. Although if it makes you feel any better, the Legion Go 2 is even more expensive by I think a couple of $100, and Game Pass is included for 3 months, but then you have to pay for the subscription if you want to. You don't have to, but that is also getting more expensive. Or you can save a few hundred and get the cheaper version of this, the ROG Xbox Ally, which comes with the Z2 chip, which is basically the same performance as the Z1 Extreme, less RAM, half the storage, 512, which really isn't enough, although you can upgrade it yourself. And it comes in white rather than black, which looks more interesting, but also is more distracting when you're trying to, lose yourself in the screen. So you have a couple of options, but should you buy one of these things? Well, if you've got 800 quid or $1,000 burning a hole in your pocket, then sure, this for me is the best Windows handheld. But what do you reckon? Are you tempted to pick one of these up? And if you've got any questions at all, drop a comment below. Hopefully you found this review helpful. As I say, make sure you subscribe for my full handheld buying guide. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Chap.